Welcome to Audiobook 365 Stories.
Everyone called her Pretty Miss Kate. It was a strange name, and she got it in a strange way. A kind of not-so-smart nurse, who was really faithful, took care of Squire Oswald's baby daughter when she was little. She was the one who first called the girl Pretty Miss Kate. They lived in a small area where everyone knew each other. Because people heard this name a lot, everyone started using it. And really, at 15, Kate Oswald deserved it. She was a tall, thin girl with a very graceful and stylish figure. She had blue eyes, not the light blue of a French doll, but deep and shiny, like the soft color of the sky in the summer. She had hair like a princess from the north. It wasn't yellow at all, but it was fine and light enough to be noticed easily. Her skin was beautiful too, matching her hair perfectly. When her cheeks had color, it wasn't bright red, but just a very light pink. Only her lips were a rich, vivid red. A prettier girl, truly, is rarely seen on this planet. The few girls like her who have lived and grown up have usually caused a lot of excitement, playing with people's hearts like toys, and sometimes breaking them. But Pretty Miss Kate wasn't old enough for that yet, and her biggest fan was little Sally Green. There was a special friendship between these two, if you can even call it that. One side was all about loving and admiring blindly, while the other side was about feeling sorry and being kind. Squire Oswald owned the small house where Widow Green lived. Whenever there was a lot of work to do at the big house up the hill, they would send the family's dirty laundry down to Mrs. Green at the bottom of the hill. The widow would work for many hours, carefully folding the delicate clothes and smoothing out the soft fabrics, which Pretty Miss Kate used to wear like a flower blooming from its bud. During these times, Sally would often bring the clean laundry home, and she usually found a way to take it up to Miss Kate's room herself. No one paid much attention to little Sally Green, especially not thinking she had any romantic, heroic, or poetic qualities. But she did have them all. If you talked about her heart and mind, Sally had something special that made her just as good as the best. She was a simple, dark-haired girl with a solid, square-shaped body. She had big black eyes that nobody noticed, but they could have been enough to make her a popular beauty. She had a lot of black hair that she didn't know what to do with, and her skin was a bit pale but smooth. No one really thought much about how she looked, except maybe Pretty Miss Kate. One day, when Sally brought back the clean laundry, Kate was reading a story out loud to a friend. Sally seemed like she wanted to stay longer. Kate, who was only 14 at the time, noticed Sally's interest and admiration. She felt a quick urge to include Sally, so she said, "Do you want to hear the rest, Sally? Just wait, and I'll read it to you." The story was called Romance of the Swan's Nest by Mrs. Browning. It was Sally's first introduction to the magical world of poetry and fiction. Before that, she had admired Pretty Miss Kate, but now her admiration grew even stronger. Kate quickly realized Sally's feelings, thanks to her feminine instinct that recognizes and enjoys honest admiration from anyone, rich or poor. She became very kind to Sally, lending her many books and magazines. Sometimes she would give Sally a flower, a colorful ribbon, or a small picture. To Sally, these little gifts were like treasures from a goddess. She cherished them with all her heart, as they reminded her of the beautiful young lady she adored so much. One evening in June, Sally had been working hard all day. She had washed dishes, ran errands for her mother, and made dinner. Now her reward was about to come. "You can tidy yourself up," her mother said. "Then take that basket of Miss Kate's things back to Squire Oswald's." Sally rushed upstairs, brushed her black hair, and tied it with a red ribbon that Miss Kate had given her. She put on a clean dress and a small straw hat that Miss Kate had owned the year before. Despite being a short, dark-haired girl, she looked quite nice. She was 13, 2 years younger than her idol, Miss Kate. While Miss Kate was tall and seemed older than her age, Sally looked even younger than she was. Her heart raced as she hurried up the hill. She thought about the story of the mouse and the lion she had read in one of the books Miss Kate lent her. It made her think of herself and her idol. Not that Miss Kate was like a lion at all. No, she was more like a beautiful princess. But Sally felt like a poor, humble, and helpless little mouse. Yet she believed that one day she might be able to help Miss Kate in some way, no matter the cost to herself. Poor Sally. The time for her to help was closer than she realized. When she reached Miss Kate's room, it was as pretty as ever, decorated in shades of blue, white, and silver, fitting for such a fair-haired beauty. The bed and wardrobe were made of polished chestnut with delicate carvings. The carpet was light gray with blue roses that seemed impossible. The blue curtains were tied back with silver cords, and there were silver-framed pictures on the walls. On the mantel, there was a clock and vases adorned with silver ornaments. Pretty Miss Kate looked like she belonged in that room. She wore a blue dress, with a silver necklace her father had brought her from faraway Genoa. She had silver earrings and a silver clasp on her waist. She greeted Sally warmly, though she might have been a bit aware of the difference in their status. Miss Oswald and Sally Green, but to Sally, everything about Miss Kate seemed perfect. "Sit down and stay a while, Sally," she said. "I have something to tell you. Do you remember the first time you heard me read that story, and your eyes got so wide with listening, and I made you stay to hear it all?" "Yes, indeed," Sally said eagerly. "I never forgot anything I ever heard you read. The first time was The Romance of the Swan's Nest." "Yes, you're right. And I was surprised to see how much you liked it. It made me interested in you, because, you know, I am interested in you, don't you, Sally?" Sally blushed with pleasure, but she didn't know what to say, so she wisely stayed quiet. Miss Kate continued, "Well, I'm going to read that same story next Wednesday night at the Academy's evening event. The hall can't fit everyone, so they're giving out tickets. Each of us girls has some to give away, and I have one for you. I thought you'd like to come and see me there, wearing my white gown and hear me read the story again. You might not think such a small thing could make someone so happy, but Sally's face changed from red to white, and then back to red again. Her big black eyes filled with tears, like raindrops in an April cloud. "Do you really mean it?" she asked. "Yes, I do, child. Here's your ticket. Don't cry, silly girl. It's nothing. I just wanted to make sure there was someone there who would think I read well, even if no one else did. And I have a dress for you too, the pink one I wore last year. It doesn't fit me anymore, so it's no use to me. My mom said I could give it to you. It's Saturday now. You can get it ready by Wednesday, right?" What a happy girl went home that night. The sky was turning pink as the sun set in June. Sally ran into the Widow Green's humble little house, full of joy and excitement. The neighbors didn't think much of Widow Green. They only saw her as a woman who washed clothes well. But Sally saw more. She saw a mother who always tried to make her happy, who shared her joys, or at least understood them. She was never mean or jealous, just like a mother should be. She was just as happy about Sally's joy as Sally was herself, and she was proud of the attention from pretty Miss Kate. Together, they worked on altering the pink dress. When Wednesday night came, the widow felt sure her daughter was just as valuable and worthy of pride as any other girl at the academy. "You should go early," her mother said, "to get a good seat. Don't be afraid to sit up front. You have every right to be there just like anyone else." As Sally was leaving, her mother called her back. "Here, dear," she said, "take this shawl. It might get cold when you're out." The shawl was a big Rob Roy plaid, not exactly suitable for a June night, but they didn't have any summer shawls. Sally wanted to please her mother, even with such a small thing. How differently things might have turned out if she hadn't taken it. Sally was the first one to arrive at the academy. Should she sit up front, close to pretty Miss Kate? Normally, she would have hidden in a corner, as she was very shy. But something inside her urged her on. This something told her she wouldn't take up much space, and no one loved Miss Kate more than she did. So, she sat in the front row, close to the stage where the performers would appear, a real stage with bright lights. People started to come in, and soon the lights were turned on, and the event began. There were dialogues, music, and finally, the Master of Ceremonies announced Miss Kate Oswald would read The Romance of the Swan's Nest. Others might have been interested in what happened earlier, but for Sally Green, the whole evening was just a build-up to this one special moment she had been waiting for. Pretty Miss Kate walked forward gracefully, like a queen, tall and slim, with her hair braided like a crown and a small rose tucked in. She wore a light, white muslin dress, as airy as a cloud in summer, with a sash that seemed to match the blue sky. A bunch of flowers adorned her chest, and she wore no other jewelry. She looked like those beautiful beings you see in paintings by modern French artists, halfway between an angel and a fashionable woman. As she stepped onto the stage, The audience burst into applause. Then, it became very quiet as she began to read. Her eyes sparkled, and her cheeks blushed as she read the lines. Little Ellie in her smile. Chuseth, I will have a lover, riding on a steed of steeds. He shall love me without guile, and to him I will discover that swan's nest among the reeds. And the steed shall be red-roan, and the lover shall be noble, with an eye that takes the breath, and the lute he plays upon shall strike ladies into trouble, as his sword strikes men to death. She had everyone in the audience captivated with her performance, and the last verse earned her a thunderous round of applause. After stepping down from the stage, she was called back by the applause, and she returned, blushing with pleasure. A bow, a smile, and then she accidentally stepped too close to the poorly protected footlights, and her delicate white dress caught fire. Sally Green leaped over the footlights without knowing how, finding herself on the stage. She wrapped the shawl around pretty Miss Kate before anyone else could react beyond screaming. Sally held the heavy woolen folds close to Miss Kate, burning her own fingers in the process. But she didn't mind. The time for the poor little mouse to act had finally arrived. Thanks to Sally's quick action, pretty Miss Kate was saved. Not a single scar blemished her fair complexion. Though Sally suffered more severe burns, she hardly felt the pain in her joy of saving her idol, for whom she would have been willing to sacrifice even her life. They took Sally home with great care, and her first words upon entering her mother's house were, "Now, Mother, I know why I took the shawl." I mentioned how differently things might have turned out if Sally hadn't taken that shawl. Pretty Miss Kate's life might have ended in tragedy right then and there if no one else had acted quickly enough to save her, especially since there was no other wrap like the shawl nearby. And Sally might have ended up in the most humble kind of work instead of becoming who she is today. However, Squire Oswald's gratitude for his daughter's rescue didn't stop at mere words. He took on the responsibility of Sally Green's education from that moment on, ensuring she received every opportunity afforded to his own daughter. And truth be told, Sally, with her remarkable temperament and rich inner world of poetry, devotion, and admiration, quickly surpassed pretty Miss Kate in her academic progress. Yet, there was never any competition or envy between them. Just as Sally had admired Kate's beauty, over time, Kate came to admire Sally's talent. The two became true friends in every sense of the word.